Retooling. Retooling! I'm gonna retool you! Oh, hi there. So I'm your older than average gamer, and today we're going to be looking at a few of the FPS titles that are going to be available for you for this new year, most of which are already available. Maybe you got a little bit of extra money you're looking to burn. Let's make sure you don't burn in the wrong place. So real quick, if you're enjoying any of the content, I hope you'll consider maybe liking this video, subscribing to the channel if you haven't. It goes a long way in helping build this thing, and I appreciate the hell out of it. Thank you guys. So as we run through these games, I am putting my top two first. Now, you know, this is all subjective, obviously, so you may or may not agree with this, but I am doing what I think to be the two best options first, and we're going to start with Insurgency Sandstorm. So like every game on this list, Insurgency still has its fair share of bugs, and stability was a real issue for it at first. Since the Warlord update, which came out earlier this month, stability has been improved greatly. Now, it's not fixed completely by any means. There's still plenty of people that are having issues with that, but it still runs exponentially better than it did when it first came out. So bugs and all, ISS very well could be the best on this list, depending on your style of play. I will say this, I think that the gunplay is by far the best out of any of the games that are going to be on this list. The sound of the guns is fantastic. The recoil feels legit, and when you do get kills in this game, it's very rewarding. You know, it's a smaller team-based game. Communication is important, but not 100% essential, although you're going to do better if you're communicating with your team in this game. You're going to find a lot of times too, a lot of people would rather just be ridiculous through VoIP, which is also provides its own experiences, but from a pure shooting standpoint, it's very possibly the best one here. So like I said, smaller team-based games. You've got Domination, which is going to feel a little more like some stuff you may have played if you haven't done tactical FPS stuff before. But Push, Frontline, and Ambush are going to give you options for some different experiences that are certainly more team-based. The main drawback for Insurgency, on console at least, is if you're playing on past gen, there's a chance that this game does not run very well for you. Now, like I said, with the Warlord update, which came out just earlier this month, a lot of those particular issues being tied to stability, a lot of them have been fixed or seem to be fixed. But with those fixes came some other things, depending on the system you're playing on. Resolution doesn't always look that great either. But this game has got a long way to go and is going to continue getting better. And if you're into a faster paced hardcore shooter, this is by far the best game you could possibly find. Next, we're moving on to Hell Let Loose, and if you are looking for a milsim experience on console, this is by far going to be the closest thing you will have ever seen thus far if you're playing on console. 50 versus 50 100 player matches, arguably one of the best World War II games ever made. A lot of people I've heard talk about Enlisted, but I mean, I don't think Enlisted even holds a candle to this, to be quite honest with you. Team play is kind of unparalleled as well. Communication and working with your squad leader is of paramount importance, and can be the drawback depending on who it is that you're talking to. Some people want a more jump-in experience, and while you can jump in, you got to really be prepared to jump in and start working with a group of people, even if it's not directly with voice, but you have to be listening, and you've got to be willing to do whatever it is that is being asked of you. But if that's the kind of thing you're looking for, man, there is not really anything better out there. Squad might be something good, but Squad isn't on console. It's a very similar experience, but that's also modern. This is also World War II, obviously. There's also a bunch of new content coming out very soon for the console version of this game, and with full console and PC parity going to be starting this year, players on console are going to start getting to see all of the same content that PC players are seeing, not only now, but at the same time when it releases down the road. And if you're looking for ways to play with people but you don't know a ton of people in this particular game, well, the Discord communities for Hell Let Loose are vast and are very, very interested in helping you figure out how to play this game. One of the things that you've noticed about this game right away is that the people who play it are very passionate about helping other people get to a point where they understand the fundamentals of the game, and that makes the game more fun. I mean, without a doubt, makes the game more fun knowing that pretty much everybody that plays this regularly wants to help other people who are new become better at it and understand how it works. That is something that you won't really see in a lot of other games, let alone tactical FPS shooters. And I guess I shouldn't see other tactical FPS shooters because there's plenty of people that play Squad that have a similar mentality. But we're getting off topic. I digress. Next up, we've got Battlefield 2042. Oh my goodness, everybody was so excited about Battlefield. Honestly, I was too. And then we all played it. And yeah, Battlefield 2042 looks really good. It looks wonderful. It doesn't play all that great. If you're playing on console too, it means you're playing on a controller. And if you've ever played a Battlefield game and then you played this one on a controller, you realize something is wrong. And it's really hard to nail down what that is, but it just feels wrong in so many different ways. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you this game isn't fun because some people are having fun with it, apparently. I don't know who they are or if they actually played other Battlefield games or if they're just not willing to admit how bad this game really is. But I wouldn't suggest this game to anybody. And I was a guy who used to suggest this kind of game to everybody. So I think that's saying something. It's just amazing to me how far it fell away. Aside from no classes and no scoreboard and no VoIP and those things, which didn't make any sense at all. Aside from that, the audio is terrible in this game. And it's not as bad as something else we're going to talk about in just a minute, but it's really bad. And something Battlefield always used to do really well was audio. It had always had, arguably the best audio from a first-person shooter game that you would find. Balanced, well-mixed, sound very real and very immersive. Even though it was always a more arcade style game, the audio was never a problem, and that is a big one in this one now too, aside from all the other problems. So to make this quick, I wouldn't suggest this to you even if you play Battlefield a lot and you've been looking forward to maybe playing 2042 but just haven't had the money to buy it yet, and you've played other ones and you expect it's going to be Battlefield. It's something else, and I don't know what it is yet, but it's not that. I keep trying, but it's just not there. There's something wrong. Finally, we're going to talk about World War III because there's a lot of chatter about World War III coming to console. However, there is nothing official from Farm 51 or My.Games about a port yet for on console, but My.Games, being the new publisher for the game, does indicate some amount of desire to port this to consoles, as My.Games is known for doing that over the last several years, most specifically for a game called Warface. And so there is certainly indicators that it might go to console, but we don't know that for sure. That being said, World War III does some things really well, and it does some things really poorly. And it feels like every time you're about to have fun with this game, one of the things that doesn't work and it rears its head and kind of turns you off from it. At least for me, it did. Now, I talked about audio in Battlefield. The audio in this game is maybe the worst in any game I've ever played that looks as good as it does and moves as well as it does. I mean, it's like they took the audio from a Sega Genesis game and imported it into this, and I don't understand, how that could have been overlooked. But it's really, really bad. It's off-putting. You'll never know when somebody's behind you. Footsteps sound like MIDI crinkle rap, or I'm almost speechless, obviously, as you can tell. The guns sound like staplers. It's really, really, really bad. Now, that being said, the gunplay is pretty good, but because the audio sounds so bad, it doesn't feel right. It never quite feels right. Getting a kill, it doesn't really matter. And there's some issues with this, with matchmaking, sometimes that seem to be getting ironed out a little bit, but matchmaking is a little weird, and sometimes you'll wait a long time to get into a game, and that could just be player based, but there's also times when you load into a game and then it immediately boots you out and you have to go back to another loading screen due to some sort of a queue issue, and I'm not sure exactly what that is. But this game has some potential for sure, but it's going free to play as well, and that could turn some people off. This was the game I think that had the most potential to, kind of slide in right next to Battlefield, and as bad as Battlefield is, I'm not sure this is really a whole lot better. I mean, it plays a little bit better, but the sound, again, I can't harp on this enough. The sound is so bad, it really makes you want to throw your brain out of the window. So, let's not get too ahead of ourselves either. We don't even know if this is coming to console. Like I said, there's a pretty good chance based on who's taken over publishing for it, but that is still to be seen. If you're on PC and you were thinking about maybe doing the closed beta test, I would just wait till the open beta test comes out. Don't spend the money on it, because it's just it doesn't feel like a real well-polished game. It looks nice and it runs pretty smooth for the most part, depending on your system. But there are just a lot of things that it's not doing, and something else. It's being called a tactical FPS. I'm not really sure why. Yeah, it's team-based. You're on a squad, but you also have essentially what are COD call-in kill streaks. There are some vehicles that are just vehicles. I mean, that's about all I would say for them, to be honest with you. There's 10 HUD elements on screen, so I mean, nothing about that feels hardcore or tactical in any way. The time to kill is kind of low, is pretty low, but that's really about it. It feels more like COD mixed with COD mixed with Battlefield mixed with something else. And if it could just figure out what the hell it's trying to be, it might really have a chance to do really well. But they also really, really need to fix that sound. So that's all I've got for you today. Thank you guys for stopping by the channel. I appreciate it a lot. Hope you're having a great week. Enjoy the rest of it, and we'll see you soon.